One of the most expensive cards in Wonders of the First is utterly useless. So why is everyone obsessed with the prisoner? Let's talk about it. Welcome to Wonders Workshop, everybody, and today, you can guess it, we are talking about the prisoner. This is a really fascinating card and mystery in the Wonders community. It's one of the cards included in the prequel lore, and I think that's where this card is getting a lot of its mystique, in addition to its really unique flavor text. For those who are not familiar with with the actual text on the card and its ability, I'll go ahead and read it to you. If the prisoner is free, it gets eternal. Look at target player's hand. You control all of their choices on their next turn. Check the rules to see if the prisoner is free. So it's a big old mystery as to how to make this card do this really awesome ability. Nobody knows, because if you look it up in the rules, all it says is the prisoner. The prisoner is not free. This card remains a mystery. So we don't know what the answer is. A lot of people are speculating about what the answer might be. And there's a lot of different things that I'm thinking it could be. So let's just dive right into this. What do I think could free the prisoner, and what might y'all think the answers are in the comments? So obviously, the first thing that I think of is another card from the prequel lore. The Phoenix Quill makes a whole heck of a lot of sense. The prisoner and the Phoenix Quill are really intertwined in the lore. Let me read you just a little bit here from the prisoner's segment of lore. She did not choose to write, the quill chose her. She wrote them onto the walls, into the stone itself, where there was nothing left of her but words. If she were only a vessel, only a scribe, why did they fear her enough to keep her chained? So the prisoner uses the Phoenix Quill. A whole bunch of mind-boggling, world-bending knowledge pours into her brain. She goes a little cuckoo, is what it sounds like from all of the different pieces of lore that we have regarding her. And then she gets captured because people are afraid of what she knows. And so having you, the player, use the Phoenix Quill, it would kind of make sense that would free her. It would, like, if using the Phoenix Quill put this burden on her, then if I use the Phoenix Quill, it puts the burden on me. I think it feels a little too easy that way, but it's one of the most obvious things I can think of for what they would do. There's also, we had a decrease in the DBS of the Phoenix Quill, so that means that they probably want people to be playing it. So if they want people to be playing it, why might that be? Of course, it could be that they're just trying, right now nobody's running it because it's expensive, like in money and DBS, so they could just be doing that so that people play the card, but perhaps there's an ulterior motive to wanting people to play the card. Some other things that it could be related to is something to do with the Blazing Phoenix pub. That makes all your cards legendary, if I'm remembering correct. Sorry, ADHD brain went burr. And so, like, you could have a core legendary from each orbital out, and that would unlock her. I don't really think that's the answer either. I'm just guessing on all these things. The Blazing Phoenix pub is where the quill is stored, so lore-wise, it doesn't make quite as much sense, but it could. I think the other option is, like, it could be Drogothar, something to do with Drogothar, because he's the guardian of the quill, and so if she's imprisoned with the quill, which there's nothing to say that she isn't, then it could be that you defeat Drogothar to free her because defeating the guard, so on and so forth. although the lore doesn't make as much sense for that. Let me just read this little bit to you. They bound Drogothar there, the worm of Sulfera, the firestorm given flesh. I do not know what oath was sworn, nor what price was paid to chain him beneath the earth. But I know this, he does not guard the quill, he guards the unprepared from reaching it. So, if he's trying to stop us from getting the quill, he's probably not guarding the prisoner. But, there's a million things there that it could be. Sorry, I found a thing of tape to fidget with, apparently. And so, those are the big pieces of the prologue lore that kind of make sense to me that could be involved in unlocking her. I think there's also the chance that it's some kind of new card. For instance, in Magic the Gathering, there are, series of cards that you can use to unlock other cards. You can use a card to search out a card. You can, if you play your cards right, you can summon a specific card without paying its cost. For example, I run the Unspeakable combo in my Arcane Spirits deck. It takes 3 spells. If you play all 3 spells in one turn, you get to summon this big beat stick monster with a cool ability onto the battlefield without paying its cost. It is still cheaper to play all 3 of those spells than to summon that card on its own. So, it could be a combo like that, but I kind of doubt it's something so crazy because, it just doesn't make sense in the way the Wonders economy works for it to be that way. You'd have to have such an economy and efficiency to your actions to make that happen that it doesn't really make sense. So, I don't know what the answer is. I've been trying to do some more research. One of the things I did notice, I try to look at who owns each card when I, think about doing a video for them. And the prisoner is in a wallet by itself. I know that some people do that to protect their stuff. I don't know. It could be something to do with that. I am not knowledgeable enough to know anything about the NFT's wallet things to know whether or not that's something we should look into. But if somebody who is more knowledgeable wants to look into that and see if that's something that we should be poking around, I would love to hear what you find out. I can barely make my own wallet open most days. C'est la vie. That's the curse of being a walking EMP. So, that's kind of what I'm thinking for what could be ways that we free the prisoner. I don't know what the answer is. I'd love to hear what y'all think the answer is. It's just really interesting that her value is so high. Her prices on eBay, as of last week sometime, I think. I did the research for this a little while ago. My apologies. 5 papers had sold for an average of $60.39. 3 foils had sold for an average of $106, and 1 formless foil had sold for $305. No OCMs have sold. It makes sense. If you pull one of the 10 OCMs for the prisoner, you're probably not selling it, or if you are, you're probably selling it to Frenchie. He's got a big bounty out on all of the prologue cards. So, this really is one of the most expensive cards on eBay right now from Wonders of the First. And it's just really interesting that people are still willing to pay so much, even though the card is basically useless right now. And I think that has a lot to do with, A, it's a prologue lore card. People love those cards. But B, this is not a useless ability. If the prisoner is free, it gets eternal. Look at target player's hand. You control all of their choices on their next turn. Check notes to see if the prisoner is free. Check rules to see if the prisoner is free. It helps when I can read my own handwriting. And this is a really interesting wording of the rules. Look at target player's hand. You control all of their choices on their next turn. So A, you could play this at the end of one round, and they could have, they can draw. So what's in their hand could change. There's so many different factors that could affect, you looked at this hand now versus the decisions you can make later. Do you get to know what's in the hand if it's changed when you get to make decisions for them? I think wording it specifically, you control all of their choices, is also interesting, because I'm used to cards saying, control their next turn, or, something that makes it very clear that, now granted, these are all magic cards, that makes it clear that, you have their hand, you are doing all these things, and no matter what if it's a decision, if it's a choice to attack, to draw, to do whatever the choices are, regardless of the game, you get to make that choice. I'm wondering if this is worded really specifically to mean things defined in the game as a choice. For instance, and this could cause the ability to be really powerful. One of the choices that a player makes, and it's specifically spelled out choices in the rule books, is if there's a whole bunch of triggers on the stack. For instance, if there's four on battle abilities, whether it's on attack, on defense, or on battle, the player whose turn it is gets to choose, note the word, what order those abilities trigger in. If they get their choice, they're going to choose in the most advantageous way for them. Your triggers are probably going to go in a way that nullifies them, and it's just useless and unhelpful. Versus if you have that choice, it's a lot of benefit to you, because you can say, no, I want these triggers to work out in the way that's most beneficial for me. I think it'll be really interesting when the prisoner is free to see what the official ruling on this is. Is it choices, as in, I'm going to choose to attack, draw a card, use a tap action, use a free action, harvest something, so on and so forth? Or is it things in the rules defined as a choice? And I think that could really make or break how powerful this card is, and I'm going to be really interested to see what rules they say that go with that. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got on the prisoner. I think it's really interesting to see where this mystery is going. I'd love to hear what y'all think is going to free the prisoner. If you're like, Grace, all of these ideas are terrible, this is what I think is going to free the prisoner, I want to see it in the comments. I also, if enough of you put out ideas that I haven't talked about, we'll make a follow-up video. I have no qualms talking about, these were not my ideas, but I think they're really good ideas on more ways to free the prisoner, because the more conversation we have about this, the more we talk about it, the faster we're going to solve the mystery, and the faster we're going to get to play this cool card. So yeah, that's what I've got on the prisoner. So as always, please like, comment, and subscribe, and of course, keep being your wonderful selves.